Scientists at Hawaii's Volcano Observatory get asked one question more than almost any other right now. Will lava from Kilauea's ongoing eruption eventually spill outside its crater, and if so, when? For months, the honest answer was complicated. This week, that answer just moved dramatically closer to yes, and researchers have laid out an actual timeline for exactly how it could happen, grounded in real measurements rather than speculation. To understand why this moment matters, you need to go back to December 23, 2024, when Kilauea began erupting inside Halemaumau, the crater at the heart of its summit caldera. What started then has become something genuinely unprecedented in the volcano's recorded history. As of this month, the eruption has produced 53 separate episodes of lava fountaining, each one erupting in bursts lasting anywhere from 7 to 9 hours, separated by pauses of roughly 1 to 3 weeks, while pressure rebuilds underground. That count has already smashed the previous record for this kind of episodic activity at Kilauea, a 1980s eruption that produced 47 episodes before finally stopping, meaning the current eruption has already run 6 episodes, past that old benchmark. Scientists studying the pattern have called the past year and a half simply unprecedented, a phrase geologists studying an active volcano do not use lightly. Right now, as this video is being made, the volcano is paused between episodes, and monitoring instruments are showing exactly the signs geologists watch for before the next one begins. Summit inflation. The ground itself physically swelling as magma pressure rebuilds beneath it has been tracked closely enough that the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory has issued a specific forecast window for the next episode, expected sometime in the days immediately ahead, a window that narrows and shifts slightly with each new batch of tilt meter and seismic data that comes in. Each fountaining episode has followed a strikingly consistent rhythm, lava bursting from a north vent and sometimes a south vent inside Halemaumau, fountains occasionally reaching heights approaching 1,000 feet, before ending abruptly, often within minutes, as the pressure driving it drains away underground. Here is where the real story begins, the one that goes beyond simply counting episodes. To understand why scientists are now watching so closely for lava to escape the crater entirely, you have to understand what happened at this exact spot back in 2018. That year, Kilauea's summit underwent a catastrophic collapse, an enormous section of the caldera floor dropping downward as magma drained out from beneath it during a major eruption on the volcano's lower flank. An event that also destroyed hundreds of homes in the Puna district as lava spread across residential neighborhoods miles from the summit itself. The void left behind by that collapse at the summit was staggering, roughly a fifth of a cubic mile of empty space, with the crater floor settling more than 700 meters below the highest point on the entire volcano. Ever since, in eruption after eruption, Kilauea has been slowly refilling that exact hole. 5 separate eruptions between 2020 and 2023 filled in about a quarter of the void, raising the crater floor by more than 400 meters. Then this current, record-breaking episodic eruption took over, and in the year and a half since it began, it has filled in an additional 35% of what the 2018 collapse carved out, adding another 90 meters of height to the crater floor. Add it all together, and roughly 60% of that entire 2018 collapse has now been filled back in, a genuinely remarkable pace of recovery for a hole that once seemed almost bottomless when scientists first surveyed it. That progress puts the vent complex generating all this lava at a specific, closely tracked distance below the rest of the caldera rim, currently sitting around 65 meters, or a little over 200 feet, lower than the surrounding walls. And that gap is exactly what scientists have been watching, narrow episode after episode, for the past year and a half, tracked with the same precision instruments used to forecast when each new fountaining episode is likely to begin. If the eruption continues at the pace it has sustained over roughly the last year, researchers calculate that the entire 2018 collapse could be almost completely filled in by early 2028. Once that happens, lava will start spilling onto a part of the caldera floor that has not seen fresh lava in over 50 years, since a series of fissures opened along the southern rim and floor back in July 1974. But filling that older, deeper section is really only step one of the actual concern driving the story. Here's the part scientists have specifically warned about, and the one thing that would mark a genuine shift in how this eruption behaves. If the vents themselves keep growing taller, building up faster than the surrounding crater floor fills in around them, they could eventually rise above the level of the caldera rim entirely. And once a vent's height exceeds the rim it sits inside, lava stops behaving like it is filling a bowl and starts behaving like a river that has finally found a way over the edge, flowing downslope and directly out of the caldera altogether. This is not a hypothetical scenario scientists are simply speculating about. It has happened before, multiple times, in Kilauea's own recorded history. Eruptions in August 1971, July 1974, and September 1982 all sent lava cascading directly over the southern caldera rim, and the hardened remnants of those exact flows are still visible today near Popular Overlook, where visitors currently watch the ongoing fountaining episodes from a safe distance. An even earlier eruption, in 1959, actually built an entirely new cone, still visible along a well-known hiking trail, from lava that erupted outside the modern caldera boundary altogether. What makes the current situation different from those historical episodes is scale and duration. The 1971, 1974, and 1982 overflow events were each relatively brief, isolated eruptions rather than part of a sustained year-and-a-half-long campaign of repeated fountaining. Nothing quite like the current pattern. Dozens of consecutive episodes steadily building up the same vent complex week after week, month after month, has been documented at this volcano before, which is part of why observatory scientists describe the entire event as sitting outside the range of anything in their existing historical playbook. The genuinely reassuring part of this particular warning is where that overflow would most likely head. Because of the caldera's specific topography, it is naturally breached, meaning there is a lower point along its southwest edge that any overflowing lava would reach and spill through before it could build up high enough to threaten the taller northern rim. That southwest direction leads downslope into Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, an area that is already closed to the public and poses no direct threat to nearby residential communities if lava were to flow that way. The park itself has become something of an unlikely front-row seat to all of this in the meantime. Visitors arriving at designated overlooks have been able to safely watch entire fountaining episodes unfold from a distance, an experience that has turned this record-breaking eruption into one of the more accessible volcanic spectacles anywhere on the planet, even as park officials continue advising caution around ashfall, volcanic glass fragments known locally as Pele's hair, and the tephra that regularly blankets nearby trails and roads after each episode ends. But scientists have also been careful to flag a second, more immediate hazard that has nothing to do with lava eventually spilling out, and everything to do with the ground people are currently standing near right now. The tephra and volcanic rock making up the caldera rim itself, right around the active vents, is already unstable, prone to cracking, slumping, and small landslides that can suddenly expose molten material hidden just beneath the surface. That instability is precisely why the entire caldera rim surrounding Halemaumau has been closed to public access since late 2007. Nearly 2 decades now, regardless of what the eruption inside it happens to be doing at any given moment. Earthquakes triggered by the ongoing activity can make that already fragile ground even more prone to sudden rockfalls, adding a hazard that has nothing to do with lava directly, but poses a genuine risk to anyone who might otherwise wander too close to the rim itself. There is also a longer second act to this story that stretches well beyond the 2018 collapse zone. Once that older hole is fully filled in, sometime around 2028 if current rates hold, lava will need to cover a vastly larger area to fill the rest of the main caldera floor, more than 2,500 acres compared to the roughly 1,100 acres the current eruption has already resurfaced. Scientists estimate that filling the remainder of the main caldera would require at least another fifth of a cubic mile of fresh lava, which at today's eruption rate would take approximately 5 additional years beyond 2028. Even those numbers, though, come with an important scientific caveat that researchers are careful to repeat every time this question comes up. Eruption rates at Kilauea have varied significantly episode to episode throughout this entire event. Some fountaining episodes, particularly the ones where both the north and south vents erupt together, have produced noticeably more lava than others, where only a single vent erupts at a lower fountain height. That variability means every filling forecast tied to this eruption remains, in the observatory's own words, a very rough estimate rather than a fixed countdown, the kind of caveat that separates careful science from the more dramatic predictions that tend to circulate once a story like this starts spreading online. There is one more layer of genuine uncertainty scientists keep returning to, and it has nothing to do with math or filling rates at all. The entire timeline described here assumes the current eruption simply keeps behaving the way it always has. But Kilauea has a long history of changing its own rules without much warning, shifting from summit eruptions to activity along its east rift zone or southwest rift zone entirely, the way it dramatically did back in 2018 itself. Right now, observatory scientists report no unusual activity along either rift zone, but they are explicit that a new eruption starting somewhere else on the volcano entirely remains a real possibility that would reset this entire timeline overnight. It is also worth understanding why the vents themselves might outpace the crater floor, filling in around them, since the two do not necessarily rise at the same rate. Lava erupting from an active vent tends to build up steep, cone-shaped mounds close to its source, since gravity and cooling cause the freshest material to pile up fastest right where it emerges, rather than spreading evenly across the entire crater floor. Effusive volcanoes like Kilauea reliably build these kinds of local shields over time, and scientists note that a shield growing around an active vent can eventually overcome the surrounding topography, even before the broader crater floor has caught up to the same elevation. If you want to understand exactly what scientists are watching for is this record. Breaking Eruption keeps rewriting its own history. Make sure you like and subscribe, because this channel breaks down exactly what the data shows before the headlines catch up to it, so you already understand the science by the time the next big update arrives. So where does that leave things right now, in real time, as episode 53's forecast window sits open and the vent complex creeps closer to the caldera rim with every passing eruption? The honest scientific answer researchers keep giving is the same one they always give. It depends on how long this eruption continues, on how much lava each future episode produces, and on exactly how the vents themselves keep building up around their own growing mounds of hardened rock. What is no longer purely hypothetical is the pathway itself. 60% of a historic collapse has already been filled back in. The gap between the vents and freedom is now measured in a couple hundred feet rather than thousands. And for the first time since this eruption began, scientists are describing lava eventually flowing beyond the caldera, not as a distant possibility, but as a genuine, trackable outcome with an actual timeline attached to it, unfolding in front of live webcams and monitoring instruments for anyone watching closely enough to notice.